Will E. Jean Carroll ever get that $85 million the corrupt court said Trump owes her? Well, there's a wrinkle in it based on an appeal that Trump made where she may not get a dime. Found this new article. There was a new turn of events. It was not covered by the mainstream media. Therefore, it must be good news for Trump. That's the only conclusion I can make of it. Here it is at CBS News. I always like reporting from enemy territory because they're going to give the worst case for Trump. So you know that at least that part of it's true. All of the pro E. Jean Carroll stuff, I don't believe. But it looks like Trump's got good standing on this one. Welcome to Doug in Exile. Here's the article. Justice Department effort to step in on behalf of Trump in the E. Jean Carroll case nearly 2 years too late, her lawyers say the Department of Justice should not be allowed to stand in for President Trump in his appeal of a jury's decision to award her $83.3 million. This is just from 2 weeks ago. He's trying to get the government to foot the bill because he's now an official president. That seems reasonable, right? It's the second time Trump has sought the Justice Department's protection in the case, but Carroll's attorneys said his 13th hour effort comes nearly 2 years too late. Carroll is opposing an effort by the Justice Department, which is a taxpayer-funded agency, and Mr. Trump's personal attorneys to shield Mr. Trump from damages. The government and Mr. Trump say the Westfall Act. Now, this one is key, guys. That's the one that I found. I never heard of the Westfall Act, and now we're going to learn what it is together, which protects federal workers from lawsuits related to conduct within the scope of their employment, entitles him to absolute immunity from personal lawsuits. So there's a hitch in this where both sides have a case. It's like that old scripture verse. You know, one side sounds like they're ahead until the other side weighs in. A unanimous federal jury found in Carroll's favor in 2024, concluding that Mr. Trump made defamatory statements when denying that he abused Carroll. The justice, now that's terrible. When you defend yourself and say, I didn't abuse her, and that's considered defamatory to her, even though it's probably true that Trump did not do it. There's no way I could know, of course. The Justice Department had stepped in on Mr. Trump's behalf during Mr. Trump's first presidency and more than half of former President Joe's term in the White House. But that protection was rescinded after another jury in 2023 found, again, Democrat jury, found Mr. Trump liable for abusing Carroll, as well as separate defamation allegations. Again, Democrat judge, Democrat jury. She was awarded $5 million by the jury in that second case. Mr. Trump has denied all of Carroll's allegations and appealed both cases. Carroll's lawyer, led by Roberta Kaplan, said Monday that Mr. Trump missed a court-ordered deadline for a second, third, and fourth bite at that apple, referring to the Westfall protections. And we'll break that out why the timing of this, I've told you guys this about lawsuits, timing is everything. So she's saying Trump was too late. After the Justice Department reversed course in 2023, the judge presiding over the case gave Mr. Trump a July 13th, 2023 deadline to further pursue the Westfall issue, and he did not. Carroll's lawyers wrote he instead pursued the, quote, last-ditch claim of presidential immunity, unquote, which was rejected as it related to this case later that year, which is why they were allowed to hit him for guilty. Now, that's still their opinion that it was a last-ditch claim. I think Trump went with presidential immunity because that was the most obvious, best case for him. Doesn't mean it was the only one. They argue the plain text of Westfall Act means the clock ran out when Trump's civil trial began in January 2024. So one of the rules about Westfall Act, supposedly, I'm going to look into some more of this, is it has to be done before the trial. You can't find out after the trial when you lose that then you're going to apply these Westfall federal employee protections. But you'll see a judge is going to counter that too. The law says that a federal employee who is sued may pursue Westfall certification, quote, at any time before trial, Carroll's lawyers wrote. Again, this whole article basically might as well have been written by E. Jean Carroll's lawyers. Quote, it would be patently unfair to permit a defendant to wait to learn the results of a trial before asserting a defense under the Westfall Act, unquote, they wrote. But here's the key. Trump performed all the defamation while he was in office. Her whole case was He was famous and in office, which is why the damages were so great to her career, even though her career had ended before that. That conclusion jibes with an analysis by Northwestern School of Law professor James Pfander, another Democrat, who highlighted to CBS News the Westfall Act's use of before trial being the key. Trump has to do it before the trial. Quote, the statute would seem to suggest that a motion to substitute at the appellate stage of the litigation comes too late, Fander said on April 16th. In a book, okay, now this goes into the whole back study of the whole thing. The Justice Department said in April 11th filing, that's just last month, that Mr. Trump was acting in his official capacity. That's the Justice Department's claim. As president, when he made the allegedly defamatory statements. So that's where he gets the protection from for making the statements. The Justice Department and Mr. Trump's lawyers argue the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit is required to substitute the United States for Mr. Trump in the case. Carroll's lawyers noted that the case history includes several findings to the contrary. Quote, every decision maker to reach the question, with the exception of Trump and the Department of Justice, when it has been under his control, has concluded that Trump acted outside of the scope of his employment. Now, they forgot that quid pro quo, one man's modus ponens is another man's modus ponens. That is ponens. That is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if they're saying now the Department of Justice, all of them agree with Trump just because they're under his control, well, that should imply that the only reason why the previous Department of Justice went against him was because they were under Joe Biden's control. You see how that works? And far more of them were under Biden's control then than under Trump's control now, because you have Democrat juries and judges all over New York and Manhattan. Okay, now I've got a little more back data in that I broke out more on this case just to give you some understanding on that Westfall protection. The Trump team's April 11th filing in conjunction with the Department of Justice specifically argues for the application of the Westfall Act to shield Trump from the $83 million defamation verdict, okay? The filing includes a certification from Kirsten Wilkinson, director of the Justice Department's Torts Branch Civil Division, stating, quote, I find that Donald Trump was acting within the scope of his office or employment at the time of the incidents out of which the plaintiff's claims rose. So it was before the case, not before the verdict. Then after the verdict, of course, Trump said, hey, go back and get that Westfall stuff going. The filing further contends that the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit is required to substitute the United States as the defendant in the case, effectively granting Trump immunity from personal liability. It asserts that Trump's allegedly defamatory statements made in response to Carroll's accusations were part of his official duties as president as they addressed matters of public concern. So obviously, there's more back and forth to this. That's the big picture on this Westfall stuff you need to remember. Trump had Westfall protections and therefore immunity and does not owe her a dime. That is, the entire case shouldn't have gone to court. The entire case, he should be, and that doesn't say whether if you're found guilty or not. That just says flat out, you have the protections. Trump's in the right, he's going to get this. E. Jean Carroll, you don't get a dime. What do you guys think? Does E. Jean Carroll get a dime? This is the fourth video of a day. If you're out there in my quad club, the people that watch all 4 videos today, give yourself a cookie and put down in the chat below, quad club, and leave a comment. I'm Doug in Exile.